Well, it's time for the second to last video of my review series. With it, I tackle Gareth Edwards' filmmaking style. The three movies to his name all share a very interesting and unusual theme, a road trip. And yes, Gareth has directed three movies. That was another thing they lied about in the marketing. He has directed End Day, Monsters, and Godzilla 2014. He gives the idea in all of these scenarios a sense of apocalyptic happenings and that nature is not in man's control. End Day was 5 different scenarios about the end of the world, and the character of Dr. Howell goes through them one after the other while en route to a business meeting. Monsters took place 6 years after an alien invasion via an infected NASA space probe, and on its basic plot involves a journalist, a media mogul's daughter, and their various attempts to get to the United States through the infected zone. Throughout the film, the monsters didn't fully appear until the very end, and it showed that humans were the real monsters when it came to segregating the alien species and the Mexicans wanting to leave their unsafe country. The two monsters at the very end also symbolize the main character's sexual attention due to their budding relationship during the road trip. Even if the guy is recently divorced and the girl is engaged, but that's another beast entirely. Their plots overlapped when the monsters separated because the two leads separated against their will at the end. Godzilla, at its most simple, was a road trip movie about a soldier needing to get back home to his family with the monsters as the cinematic backdrop. The themes were obviously following the man versus nature approach most of all, with nuclear holocaust on the sidelines, but aside from all that, the Mutos represented Ella and Ford in some ways, since Ford and Ella were struggling to raise their son, but the past crept up on them in the form of Joe wanting to find the truth. The male Muto travels across the world to meet its mate, and they're struggling to procreate, but because of Godzilla's species being theoretically killed off by their kind, the Mutos have to die, simply because they are monsters. However, if they were to survive, no one would be safe. It's apocalyptic even for a Godzilla movie. The Mutos are not as equipped as Godzilla to feed off of volcanic vents on the ocean floor, so naturally they seek out radiation reserves, and when those dry up, they'll evolve to eat humans. Theoretically. With their digging talents, their EMP attacks, and their ability to work as a team, no one would be safe. We've discussed in great lengths Gareth Edwards' choice of restraint involving Godzilla, but there's another element that Gareth Edwards also uses. It involves his composition of the visual effects shots, the long take. Some directors use or appear to use multiple cameras to film one take and can get a bunch of takes where they can choose to leave the scene as one long take or splice together 2 or 3 of the takes from different cameras together to form a small scene. Edwards sometimes opts for the long take when building suspense, such as the shot of Godzilla in Chinatown. Multiple styles and techniques are used: smoke, silhouette, a juxtaposition of camera movement, because the camera moves slowly up, but then in rough increments the closer Godzilla comes towards the camera. Not to mention it is a POV shot, ultimately from a soldier's viewpoint. The shot is 23 seconds long. Back to the long wide shot of the flooded Hawaiian streets, which pans right and then up to reveal some Godzilla. There is a visual hierarchy at work here. The viewer sees flooded streets and looks to see the flares shoot up. The flares fly into the air and illuminate Godzilla's neck. That shot lasts 31 seconds. The average shot length for a blockbuster is around 10 seconds. These longer shots, which start wide in composition and tighten around a subject, play a dangerous game. A reason why the normal shot length in a blockbuster film is 10 seconds is because of the average human attention span. Michael Bay need not apply here. Inspiring a sense of awe is harder and harder than it seems. Special effects directors of the Japanese film set up their shots and scenes in a similar way. Their style has come full circle, and a prime example of meshing the old with the new. With computer-generated imagery, filmmaking has become a much more painterly medium, making humanity's ability to replicate what he sees come full circle. Within the context of CG's limitless possibilities, the thought that, say, Shinji Higuchi or Eiji Tsuburaya is quoted throughout the film seems natural. Of course, there are some references to Spielberg here and there, too. Then again, the need to show the fantastic and the surreal as far as realism and or naturalism shows olden effects of Japanese cinema were not that far off as long as the artists involved knew how to use the tools given to them, were able to conceptualize new kinds of shots, and use the tools given to come up with newer tools to make their new concepts a reality. Tokusatsu films paved the way for many natural disaster films that we know of today, Roland Emmerich being the obvious successor. CG has given Gareth Edwards, who is tackling both the monster action and the human drama, an ability to find new spins on old shots with this film. If looking at a kaiju from a vehicle window, the shot can have the kaiju closer to the vehicle, meaning tighter composition, meaning a better sense of scale. The clip of Godzilla roaring for an extended time is an interesting spin. Gamera was only 80 meters tall in Gamera 3, while Godzilla in this new Godzilla film is 107 meters, among slightly different infrastructure, but the use of lines in the alleyway is similar enough. Directing the human drama is a bit different though, and something Gareth needs a lot of improvement on. Oftentimes there is nothing completely mind-blowing about the human direction. Bryan Cranston's monologue for the second theatrical trailer and the tracking shot introducing David Strathairn's character are among the more artful. However, Edwards knows rhythm, when to go from shot to reserve shot to a shot showing what a character is talking about. What's important is noticing when the camera looks like it's on a cameraman's shoulders, when it's on a steady cam, and when the camera is completely still. There's rhythm and methodology to such, but Gareth could use some improvement here as well, such as the phone call scene. There's no pattern here. The lack of pattern isn't commenting on the chaos of the situation. The camera is moving like it's handheld, but that's about it. The use of chaotic mismatching composition as expressionism would be rather obvious, but rather the phone call scene looks like a failed attempt at framing the characters and lining them up with the vertical center of the frame. Wes Anderson has mastered this, but not Gareth. It's not bad, but it could be better. Thus, depending on how you look at it, Gareth already has his experience with directing human drama and monster action, but he could still use some improvement.